interrupt this broadcast.
10, 9,
Welcome to episode 10 of Six Things. I'm your host, Robb Ellis. We're now on double digits of Six Things. Been on hiatus for a couple of weeks, but now we're back. And I've got some extra geeky topics, and I've got two folks, kind of some inside baseball here from WECT to help me out. So let's get to some introductions. My first guest, Sarah Crandall, our web producer extraordinaire, also kind of online interwebs person, especially with our community's website. And Ben Powell, you probably recognize him doing some reporting and also some sports work, but he's a videographer extraordinaire here also at WECT. So, picked you guys because we've got some extra geeky topics. So let's get to them.
Great,
start
we're
with
geeks.
That's right.
No, I'm the geek. I just want you to kind of counter that. I needed somebody that wasn't as geeky as me. All right, number 6 this week. Here we go. The big guns. Ben, I pulled this one out just for you. Something sports related. I had to find something sports related. Okay, so this is called Big Bella. It is for the Philadelphia 76ers. They call it Sixers. Again, I'm not a basketball person here, so this is going to be all Ben. It's a t-shirt launcher. It launches 100 t-shirts per minute.
That is super official right there. Look at that thing.
I mean, it's like, so it's do. And
rapid fire.
That is super terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying?
Yeah.
It does look like a piece of like warfare. I swear they could use the army could probably use that for something.
I know.
Just blast enemies with t-shirts.
That scares me more than like an assault rifle. Like imagine if you were in the crowd and you didn't know that was coming at you. You were like a little kid and you weren't paying attention. Like,
you're gonna have the
knock you right in the face.
You're gonna have the NRA after you as far as
I guess you could use the t-shirts to clean the wounds off your face when you
probably
get
could. Well, they said they're doing all kinds of cool stuff because they're launching all kinds of promotional items from the rafters. There's a Sixers parachute drop. They're gonna do things. So I mean, they're really kind of going all out. Now, I don't know anything about basketball, to be honest. So how do they rank as far as?
Well, the 76ers made a lot of off-season moves. They traded away one of their best players, Andre Iguodala, but they brought in Andrew Bynum from the LA Lakers. So there's a lot of things changing there in Philadelphia. Maybe they needed some more, some more things to have for the fans.
Well, let's be honest. Do they suck? I mean, are they just kind of?
It's hard. It's hard to say because the season just started, and it's interesting to see how these new players and these new pieces will fit into the dynamic of their team.
See, I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about basketball
I'm just
either.
making stuff up anyway.
All I know,
It doesn't
It
matter.
sounds great, by the way.
all I know is
Great.
that looks terrifying.
All right, let's move on to the next topic here. I thought this one was just a hilarious picture, so I had to use it for 6 things. Here, check out this Jeep Cherokee. It's on the border fence, right on the Arizona and California border. They built these ramps to try to get from Mexico into the U.S. to drive this Jeep Cherokee over the border. When the Border Patrol came up to it, they saw the 2 people on the Mexican side. They were trying to free it from the border. It's clearly stuck there on the fence. Then they ran away into Mexico. There's some elaborate ways to get into this country.
Wow, that takes the cake right there.
And I think I've got another picture of it too.
It's almost more trouble than it's worth, don't you think?
That reminds me of an episode of Weeds.
Oh, see, I never watched that. So,
Yeah.
Did they do something similar?
Yeah, well, they live in California and then they go to Mexico. So there's like a bunch of stuff with illegal shenanigans that the main character takes part in. So that's what it reminded me of.
I'm really surprised they were able to get up that far, especially in the other picture, which I'll back up to and show you again. I mean, if they would have had enough speed, they could have clearly gone over, but it looks like maybe they weren't going fast enough.
I want to know what they did when they got the car stuck. At what point do you bail out of the Jeep and just start running,
Mayday.
Well, that's what it said. It said there's probably other contraband that was inside, but they removed it before it got, or after it got stuck. They got that stuff out of there before the border agents came, and they didn't want to, to confiscate all their their illegal weeds, as you could say.
I want to know what you do when you get out of a situation like that. Like, what did the people do? Did they go to a bar and get like, woo? We just did that,
lick their wounds. It's clearly. They did not invest a lot of money in the vehicle because that's looking like maybe 1990.
Yeah.
They didn't invest a lot of thought into this either. I mean, clearly when you're trying to use a car to get over a fence.
Well, it's not a bad idea. It seems like
why can't they just hop that fence? It's not even that high.
That's so silly.
Yeah, well, because there's like nothing but desert out there, so I guess it's an easier way to travel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
You got to give him points for creativity, I
creativity.
guess.
Yeah. Good
little
effort.
Little outside the box.
Good effort, but,
never been done before.
it looks like they
again.
use like towers or something for the ramps to go up, like those little not cell phone towers, but the cheap little antenna towers. Man, I don't know. All right, this one's a good one. You know, if you're interested into the spirits.
Oh yeah, now
we'll
we're
say.
talking my language here.
I knew Ben would like this
Wait,
one.
is that vodka?
No, it's Jack Daniel's new clear whiskey. The first time in 100 years since Prohibition that they have broken the mold from their typical whiskey that they go with. You know, kind of that darker tinge
Right.
to the color, and they're going to release what they call white whiskey. It's more of a rye whiskey. I'm told it has a sweet or a fruity kind of a smell or taste to it. I'm not a whiskey fan. I just don't like whiskey.
I'm with you.
I can't stand whiskey either.
It's just a little too, like, I always feel like it hurts to drink.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, but you know, they say this is a little bit smoother. It's got a crisp, dry finish for any of those aficionados out there.
Why?
I mean, it could be good depending on what you mix. I mean, what do you mix a clear whiskey with? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, don't most people drink
Yeah.
whiskey straight, like just on the
Do
rocks
they?
or something? I mean, I
I
don't know.
think most people
You got to be
do,
pretty
like,
hardcore to do that.
I-
Just drinking whiskey straight from
If
the
I
glass?
drink, which is very infrequent.
Don't lie.
It's, no, I don't. You know, it's usually I try to do some sort of vodka drink.
Yeah,
Just because I feel
same
like
here.
it's smoother.
Yeah.
And they say that the impurities, like in the darker drinks, the rums and the whiskeys, the darker colored, are the things that make you feel terrible the next day when you have a
Really?
hangover. Yeah,
Really?
so,
I never heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you,
I didn't know that either.
Like red wine, if you drink red wine the next day, you tend to feel not as good. But this, because it's a little bit more clear, maybe
Right.
a little bit purer.
See, I'll drink vodka, orange juice, vodka Sprite, vodka anything. But I don't really mess with the whiskey and I'm with you on that one.
I guess, you know,
I like the more clear stuff, but I mean, it's worth a try. I
It's
guess.
worth a try. That's the way I
It's
feel.
a little too hardcore. It's like, if it's not broken, why try to fix it? What was wrong with the regular whiskey? That kind of reminds me of like when they came out with green ketchup. It was like,
Oh yeah, the green
know what I mean?
ketchup was nasty.
like why?
And then they have
Why
purple
even
ketchup
try?
too. They
Yeah.
had like a purple ketchup.
Yeah.
It was almost the color of your shirt, to be honest. But it was really kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I will not be trying that. Any type of whiskey, I think
I'll give it
is
a whirl.
gross.
I'll let you know how it goes.
I know Ben will. All right, let's move on to number 3 this week. Okay, there was a study that came out that says that if you have anticipation of math, like you have a math test coming up, that it is similar to physical pain. So that the math itself doesn't hurt, but the anticipation of math, the anxiety can cause physical pain.
My brain hurts just listening to you explain that. So I will agree with this study right off the bat.
See, again, I'm the geek here,
Confuses me.
so I always liked math.
I can definitely attest to it causing pain. I had a learning disability in math as a kid, and so it was just awful. Like, I was a girl in school who kids would tell me the wrong answers when the teacher called on me in class. They'd be like, yeah, it's 5.
Oh,
and the answer was
that's
really
terrible.
7. Yeah, and so anything math related
That's
like
me.
scarred me for life.
So did
my
you get
God.
like anticipation, like
yeah,
anxiety about
oh yeah,
it?
totally.
Oh, see, I was ready for that math test when it came around.
Oh,
so.
not
I
at
was
all.
good at math in like grade school, but as it got harder, once we get into calculus and trigonometry and other words I can't really pronounce,
See, I love
that's when
that
it
stuff.
gets too hard.
I was all seeing, this nerd, this guy here. So anyway,
Weather
well, if you're
geeks.
feeling the anticipation of math and you're not feeling so good before that math test, now you know the reason why. Let's move on to our next topic. Okay, here's where we're getting really into the meat of this. Okay, I know
Yes.
you guys aren't big D&D fans. I am a D&D fan. Jim Van Dillen is somewhere in the building who will maybe chime in on this. I know he's in the other room here, but okay, here's the deal. There was a study that was done of trying to find out how people analyze images. When there is a creature or a person, how do we as people look at a creature? Do we look at the center of the creature, or do we go to the eyes of the creature? So in trying to do this, like a teenager came up with using some of the D&D creatures, because you can see there are all kinds of different shapes and they have eyes in different places, and they found that they can use all these different monsters from Dungeons & Dragons to actually solve this scientific problem. And I sound completely geeky talking about this, but to me it was the
Yeah.
coolest thing possible.
You do. What geek came up with this?
Yeah,
study?
like-
I mean, was this some guy who just like got a hold of some mushrooms or something? He's like, let's study the Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, who thought of this?
Well, okay, well, they have this thing called the Monster Manual, and again, any Dungeons & Dragons folks out there are going to know what I'm talking about. You know what the monster manual is. It contains all the different creatures. I can't believe I'm talking about this. But it really is. I think it's really neat that they used it for science. You gotta like admire. They're taking science fiction and bringing it into science. That's kind of cool, right?
Well, that is admirable. I do like that. But I'm not a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I don't know much.
I appreciate the effort.
See, Ben's not buying this at all.
I appreciate the effort, but all I see is geeky little creatures that belong to like my 5-year-old nephew or something like that. I mean, it looks like they should be playing a board game with these things,
never
not
played-
studying them for science.
You never played D&D at all?
Not Dungeons and Dragons. I will say I'm a big fantasy like sports kind of guy, and one of our directors,
That
Chris
has
Winger.
nothing to
No,
do with
but I have a point. I have a point. Chris Winger, one of our directors, always says that fantasy football is like the Dungeons and Dragons of the NFL. So
that's a
I
good
guess you
Why
could
would you
say that.
even why would you even bring down fantasy football?
Just
by
because it's so
making that?
geeky. I mean, like you're sitting there pulling for like one guy to make a catch for a touchdown, and meanwhile, you know, your team is losing by 30 points.
I
But
can
if that
see
one
that.
guy catches a touchdown, you're all excited about your fantasy team. It's
You're a
just
geek
kinda
inside.
geeky, yeah.
You're a geek inside.
Yeah, I'm like a football geek.
Football geek.
No, you said you like Lord of the Rings, though, right?
I do. I do like Lord of the Rings.
Well, we were talking about the trilogy.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about. It's very heavily based. Dungeons and Dragons. The guy that came up with it, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was a big J.R.R. Tolkien fan. So,
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so a lot of it is kind of based off the dwarves and elves of all that. And we will
That is
move on
pretty
from
cool.
that to the big topic. This week, everyone has been talking about this. It's the acquisition of Disney, of LucasArts by Disney.
Look at that picture.
Yeah.
And the announcement that they will make an episode 7, 8, and 9. So basically, there's already been 2 trilogies. They're going to extend the trilogy, and we were talking about this, but to be honest, I don't know enough about how much of the trilogy they're going to. Is this going to be after the first trilogy? Do we know?
Right, that's where it gets really confusing because I don't know where we are in the story. Is it because I know what was the first 3 were a prequel?
No,
Yeah.
the first three were the like 5, 6, 7.
Right.
Or no, excuse me, 4, 5, 6.
From
And
the
they
70s.
backtracked.
From the 70s.
Yeah, from the 70s, 80s, and then we went to the prequel, the 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So now they're going to release 7, 8, 9, which I guess would be after, like it would be farther
Yeah,
in the
they
future.
would have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
After all,
It's all so
it
confusing.
is
Why
a
don't
little
they just go in
confusing,
order?
but I'm telling you, the Star Wars people are just. Some of them are super
Oh,
excited.
they're fired up.
They're fired up, but some of them are super.
I'm not a happy camper about this at all.
Right. Again, some of them are a little upset. Now, why?
Because the first 3 Star Wars series, the first 3 from the 70s, are like the best movies ever, I think. The best movies that have ever come out. Why would you even try to add anything to it or fix it? When they came out with the prequels, they were awful. They were terrible.
You didn't like the prequels?
No.
See, I did. I'm one of the few people on this planet that actually enjoyed Episode 1.
Ugh.
Jar Jar Binks aside, I know
Jar
everybody
Binks.
hated Jar Jar Binks. Have you even seen any of these?
I've seen it. I liked Jar Jar Binks. I think.
See, I didn't necessarily like him, but I loved the concept. My problem with Lucas is that he's too black and white, good versus evil. I like a lot of
Yeah.
shades of gray, and now he's hanging out with a bunch of mice, and of course that's the big joke. That
That's pretty
it's
scary
Disney.
in itself, right there.
Why is
Mickey
R2-D2
Mouse with
red?
the lightsaber and everything.
That is pretty terrifying. However, I did hear that after Lucas sold that to Disney, he plans on donating a majority of the money to public schools, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's the news story from this. It
Yeah.
happened just within the past couple of days
Right.
or so. So you know, he's not getting $4 billion, by the way, which is what it sold for. He's not going to get all that. He's going to donate it. I think it's a good thing. I think you have reason to be a little anxious
And if
about
he's
it.
using his celebrity for good,
I commend that.
you gotta
but,
commend that.
you
Can't hate
know,
on that.
See, there's going to be haters either side, though, because you know when Episode 7 comes out, there are going to be people that say, oh, it's not Lucas, it's somebody else. It's gonna
Now, do
be-
they still make Star Trek movies?
They haven't made one in a while. I don't know.
I never got into Star Trek.
But see, here's the
Me
thing.
neither.
The movie industry side of this, and I think this is why they did this, the movie side of this is not the big side. The big side is the gaming
The
industry.
merchandise.
Yeah.
The merchandise and the gaming,
Yeah.
because there's a ton of games that are going to be coming out from this, and there's already games that are currently in play, so all those licenses for those games are going to be extended. I mean, if you are in the comics or the gaming business, you know that there's a lot of Clone Wars kind of stuff that
Yeah,
gets filtered into there
absolutely.
before and after, kind of in between all the movies. I think that's where the big money is going to be. But
That's true. That is true.
geekiest episode
It's
that we
pretty
have ever
geeky
done.
stuff.
Yeah, I
Dungeons
know.
and Dragons, Star Wars.
I
Where's
tried
like
to
the
ma-
Ninja Turtles at, man? That was the.
There's a new
They were
Ninja Turtle.
supposed to
Is there
make
really?
it. They were supposed to, and then I heard that they ended up not going through with it.
Now I'm
And
way more excited about that than Star Wars.
The guy who directed Transformers, I heard, was supposed to be in charge of that.
Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Michael Bay.
Yeah.
And would they shoot any of that here in Wilmington? Because they did the first couple
I
here. in
don't
Wilmington?
think you're going to be able to draw any correlation between the first movie, which was terrible, by the way, right? I mean,
Was
you
it?
might,
I didn't see it.
it was like very cheesy, kind of like
Yeah.
costumey.
Yeah.
But when I was like 4th grade, it was awesome.
Oh no, it was cool. Do you remember the old Nintendo game?
Oh, dude,
It was
yes.
awesome.
Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
All right,
It was
we could
great.
talk about geeky stuff forever and a day.
Let's keep talking.
But we've got we'll wrap up the episode and then we'll keep the conversation going.
Great.
That's all the time we have for 6 things. We're going to keep talking geeky stuff. Join us next week when we have 6 more things that you may have missed.